Configure legend. This is where all of your point features, link features, surface features, text styles, and a number of global settings are stored. These are copied from your prototype survey when you create a new LSS survey. Therefore, any amendments you make to the legend in the current survey, including adding new features and amending how existing ones look, will not be used the next time you create a new survey unless you use this survey as your prototype. And that's not really recommended because you're forever having to remember which your previous survey was. The suggested route would be go ahead, make your changes inside this survey, save this survey, then when you finish this job, go and open up your prototype survey and choose Input Merge Legend. Select this one as the one from which you want to collect the legend settings, and then copy them into your prototype and save your prototype survey. That means that you don't have to continually think where your new codes have appeared and which job they were associated with. However, you may well have different prototypes because each client may have different requirements. Just make sure that you are making these changes to the appropriate prototype. Okay, let's have a look at the Configure Legend menu. I won't go through every possible option, but I'll just give you some feel in the next few minutes as to how to use Configure Legend. We have point features, link features, surface features and styles. We'll start with point feature. We can add a new point feature, amend an existing one. You can only delete a point feature, link, surface or style if it's not currently in use in the current survey. You can rename one which is in use, and you can copy the parameters for one and create a copy of those to a completely different feature code. So for example, if you've drawn a nice tree shape, you don't have to keep recreating the same shape. If all you wanted to do was change the code and the size, you can use the copy and amend option to do that. Let's begin by creating a new point feature. Bear in mind that every point feature has to start with the letter P. I'll just put 3 letters after that. It can be up to 4 characters, but it can't start with any other character other than P, but it can have up to 3 alpha or numeric characters after that. Give it a description, call it new code, a display color. The Load as General Text option will, when you import survey data with that feature code, instead of it loading this text and displaying it and attaching it just to the feature code itself, if we load it as general text, then it will come into the survey as an item of text sitting on top of the observation for that code, which means you can then drag it around the screen. We can decide whether we want levels to be displayed or plotted, in which case which text style do we want to use, and we'll come on to text style later, but these are the ones I have available to me within the current survey. If we do display the levels, what is the distance from the feature to where the text starts, and what orientation do I want and what position do I want it in. Well, if you've gone through the edit, amend, level text, then you will know what all of these options are about. If we say 6, that's east. We can, for purposes of 3D view, give this feature a height and select a texture for it. Now we come on to drawing the planimetric symbol to represent this feature. I'm going to create a rudimentary tree symbol. I'm going to start off with a circle as my main shape, and these are the 8 main compass directions we want to draw it in. Well, if it's just a simple circle in the middle, then you just need to tick one of those boxes. It doesn't matter which one you tick. However, if you want to make that line thicker, just for this element of the symbol, we can put an offset in there and then start drawing it in different directions. So it's offsetting it from the center by 5%, and he's drawing it again. Those of you who are old enough to remember the spirograph toy will be familiar with this kind of technique. If we set it back to 0, there's no harm in having them all ticked, but it won't make any difference if you've got them all ticked with no offset. I'm now going to pick up a symbol that I want to use for inside that tree. Let's try that one. Draw it once. Okay, let's draw it in all of the 8 compass directions. Let's offset it. Okay, that's looking good. And the offset is measured as a radius from the center of the symbol. That box there is 100 units, or 100%. We can offset it radially, which is what we're doing at the moment, or we can offset it by the square, which is east, north, northeast, etc. And it will give you a slightly different shape doing it that way. And if we select joined, what it will do is get to the end of the previous subsymbol and draw a line straight back to the beginning of the next. So you can create some interesting shapes using this particular method. And you can use up to 4 different subsymbols for each point feature. We then give it a size. If we now save the survey and insert a new observation, PZZZ is what I want. I'm going to insert it here and here. Depending on what settings we've got in DTM display, we may or may not have levels turned on, so just check that levels are turned on. Point feature ID should be turned on as well. So that's the level. So let's go back to Configure Legend. This time I'm going to amend, and it's already selected, but I could just hit snap. So there's the description for it, but I haven't filled in any point feature ID text. Now I can never remember what these options are, but if we go into the help documentation, this explains the characters we can use inside that field to display a variety of information. For example, the @ symbol will display the feature code. This tilde character will display the description, and the hash will display the point number for each point. If I now type in this field ~hash, next, OK, finish and save, we'll now see the description for that feature together with its point number. Any changes we make in the Configure Legend will apply to every single occurrence of that same feature within the current survey. However, if you subsequently turn off the levels display in Legend but have already amended the level text in the survey, then it will be fixed at that location and it will not go on and off with the settings inside Legend. Similarly, if you select the option to default the feature to non-terrain, any existing features which are already in the survey will not be changed to non-terrain. Therefore, I've now changed the default to non-terrain. If I now subsequently add a new PZZ feature and query it, it will tell me now that this is a non-terrain feature, although the ones that were originally placed in the survey are terrain features. We then come on to link feature. Just as with point feature, we can create new link features, but rather I'm going to amend an existing one. I select this fence. There's the code, there's the description. Levels are displayed. They are oriented parallel to the link feature, and the paired links option means that as the link turns a corner, it will bisect the angle that is described by that link feature. If we make them perpendicular to direction, any levels which haven't already been amended or fixed in position will be changed. We can set a height for purposes of 3D view and also a texture. A display color and also a mirrored feature. Now a mirrored feature would be a feature such as a hedge where you have a line to the right hand side of where the points were originally surveyed, and if you're surveying, for example, from south to north and the hedge is to your right, then you'll have a hedge right feature. But if you then approach it from the other direction, from the north to the south, you'll be using a different code because you don't want the hedge on the right again, you want it on your left coming from the other direction. So what you can do is you can pair up two features so that whenever they're used in the correct order, it will automatically work out which one it was you wanted to use. As before, plottable color, we can define the plot line width if we're plotting out to a printer or a PDF document, and we can also set this feature to be non-terrain, and again it won't affect any existing link features that are already in the survey. At this point we can select up to 4 sub-symbols. We can have one on the left hand side with an option of an offset to that, and 2 through the center and 1 to the right. For example, if I look at my hedge situation, I might have a dashed line in the center and then a solid line to the right hand side. Or in fact, let's go and choose one of the hedge symbols that's been specifically produced, that one there. And if I make the pattern repeat 2 meters and make the offset 25% of that pattern repeat, that will make that 50 centimeters wide. We can make the pattern length exact, so it will always repeat this pattern every 2 meters, which means that if you finish a link and that link is not an exact multiple of the length of the symbol, then it will just draw you a proportion of a symbol at the end. If you say it's not to be exact, then it will just stretch and fit the symbol to fit the gap between the points. Whether you want the feature to be smoothed or not, depending on the symbol that you've used in the legend, some symbols can be smoothed and others can't, depending on the complexity of the line style that you've created. And also on this screen it explains that because this is a complex line style, this will be exported as a block to AutoCAD should you export the DXF file. Simpler features will be exported as polylines and can therefore be edited much easier inside AutoCAD. Again, please have a look at help. There's a lot more information that I can explain to you in this tutorial. It was now changed all examples of that F feature code in the current survey now. Okay. If I go back into it, and this time select inline annotation, instead of using line styles to define the feature, in fact instead of messing that one up, I'm going to create a new feature. I'm going to call this electricity. Okay, let's give it a colour. I know this isn't standard colour for electricity, but let's just give it a lime green colour. I'm going to put the levels on. I'm going to make them perpendicular to the line. Okay, that's fine. And inline annotation changes the display. Inline annotation will allow me to put up to 3 characters, 3 text items or numbers along the link feature, plus a pattern such as a dashed line or a solid line or whatever it might be. So if I now want to select this feature, okay, and whenever we select any symbols, you'll see the same symbol repeated across the line. This represents a 100% sized feature, and each subsequent one is a 20% reduction. So if this is going to be drawn at 1 meter across, that will be 0.8, 0.6, 0.4 and 0.2, but it's the same symbol all the way across. I can choose the pattern repeat of the line and also the symbol size. I can make the annotation sheet oriented, so it's always readable from the bottom of the sheet. And now if I add that feature, you'll see I've now got annotation and a dashed line running along that feature. And as before, if I change the specification for it inside the legend, such as the symbol size and maybe the pattern repeat, it changes everything within the current survey that has that feature defined. I'll show you the influence of sheet orienting the text. This will always mean that the text doesn't follow the line of the order in which the points were imported, but they will always be nominally visible from the bottom of the page. So you see it's flipped these because these would have been upside down otherwise. We now come on to surface feature. Again, surface features can have up to 4 characters and they can be alpha or numeric. We can have a screen display pattern, and if you choose a pattern you then pick a foreground and a background colour. Otherwise, if you just select the blank one, then it's the foreground colour which is used. I can decide whether this surface will allow contours to pass through it or not, and also whether this surface is to be a void surface, i.e. no triangles go into that surface, it's excluded from volumes and 3D views and everything. I can decide if it's plottable or not, and also whether slope arrows will be permitted through this surface feature. I can give it a height, and if I give it a height I can also give it a top and an edge texture, so for 3D view purposes we can then view the feature. And because I tick the option to plot, I'll probably just want a solid colour and no hatching. Finish, save. I can now apply that surface however I want and just add it by line, and you'll see now the surface being applied. And as I move the cursor around you'll see that it says it's news, which stands for new surface. If we turn on the contours, we'll see the contours going through that surface. If I now change that to be not contoured, the contours are stopped, and if I now make it a void surface, not only are there no contours in there, but as I move the cursor around the survey I lose the Z value in the lower right hand corner, because I'm going into a void area. I look at text styles, and text styles again can have up to 4 characters. I'm going to go in and amend the default style, DFLT. The text size is 0.15 of a centimetre whenever this text style is used for general annotation or levels text or point feature ID text. I can change the font, and it will pick any fonts that you've got on your computer. And when you save the survey, although the name of the font will be saved with the LSS survey, if the person who then opens that survey doesn't have that font, it will be reported to them when they open up the survey. We can display the normal colour for the text, and also if it has a different plot colour. If this style is to be used for levels text, then how many decimal places do you want it to be displaying, and also if it's a level text, how big a cross do you want it to draw. If this feature is to be attached to a point feature or link feature such as we have here, then do you want it to use this overriding colour, or do you want it to use the colour of the feature to which it's labelling? Finish, save. Now any features which use that DFLT text style will employ those new settings, including number of decimal places and the font. So that's text style, and there are a number of global settings which you can change inside Configure Legend, such as spot level. You can define the spot level text style. You can change whether spot levels, that's points without a feature code, are positioned by default with a plus and then an offset to the text or by the decimal place, and also whether features such as spot levels automatically default to non-terrain. The point feature text settings, what text style do you want those to use? So if I go to OK there, finish, save, you see it's changed the point feature text style to be different from the point feature itself. Observation numbers, what style do you want to use for those? Station, text and symbol sizes. This is all pretty self-explanatory. Just knowing where to look, I think, a lot of the time. General text pointers and borders will allow you to change the general size of arrows that you use in general annotation. And then if you have any load created legend entries, i.e. you've imported some data from, say, an AutoCAD drawing, they've come in as load created, and you've then reassigned them to be something else, and those load created features are still in the current legend, then you can get rid of them. So don't forget, all of these are now committed once we save the survey, which means that if we go into our normal prototype, which is this one, the one that's defined in Configure Survey Parameters, open that up and then do Import Merge Legend from the survey we've just been working on, and either just add, which will only add the new entries but won't add any amended existing entries, or the replace as well as add will bring the whole lot in and overwrite any existing duplicate names.